Hello, my name is Duncan. I'm the California Director for Americans for Safe Access, and the story I'm telling today is about the very first medical marijuana patient that I ever met. I moved to San Francisco Bay Area in about 1994, just as the very early meetings regarding Proposition 215 were getting underway. And I think, like a lot of the people who were involved in medical cannabis, and even today, a lot of people who are just encountering the issue, I had some skepticism and some uncertainty about what medical cannabis was all about, and suspected that in fact these people were using this as an excuse just to legalize marijuana. And so I went to the first meeting with a little bit of ambivalence, and sat down in that meeting next to a medical marijuana patient, the very first one I ever met. A school teacher, a special education teacher, who used medical marijuana to treat her glaucoma so that she could see just enough to keep teaching. And it was so very important to her that she stay in the classroom and be able to teach her students. And she told me her story. She told me about her failing eyesight, about losing her career, about times in the classroom where her vision was so poor that she couldn't see when students stood up and walked out of the room, and how she was almost ready to retire and to get out of teaching altogether. And then when she used medical cannabis, she could see enough to carry on. And she knew she couldn't carry on forever, but if she could just carry on for a few more years and help a few more of these special needs students, she felt like she was fulfilling her purpose and making a difference. And it was so moving to see someone who was so passionate about her work and so impacted by her physical limitations, and yet she was persevering and overcoming those limitations. But what was really tragic about her story was what she told me last, and that's that every single day she lived in fear. She lived in fear that the school district or the parents or even the students might find out that she was a medical marijuana patient, and she would lose her job and be discredited, and most importantly, lose her influence over the students. And that was very hard for her. And she was so passionate about Proposition 215 because she wanted legal protection. And more than legal protection, she wanted sanction. She wanted the world to know, and for the students to know, and the school to know, that medical marijuana was for real, and that it was for real in her life. And that story by itself, I think, would be important for anybody to hear. But it was especially impactful for me because when I was in school, in elementary school, I was a special ed student. And I remember the dedication of the teachers who spent so much time and extra time working with us and helping us overcome the challenges we were facing in education. And to see this woman who had that hard job to do, struggling every day just to keep doing that job, and then fearing every day that she would be exposed or uncovered, was very impactful for me. And sometimes we think about medical cannabis in terms of sick and dying people, and that's very much a part of it. People who are dying, who are suffering with incurable conditions, people living with HIV and AIDS and cancer. It is certainly for those very sick people, but there's also an aspect of medical cannabis that's about people who are being well and healing and getting by. And I think it's very important to remember that medical cannabis is about living just as much as it is about dying and being sick. And her story is very much about that, about using medical cannabis to carry on with your life, with a quality of life that you need to do what's important to you. And I think it would be very important for people to know that all over California, and in fact all over the United States, people are using medical cannabis to do just that, to live and to be well. And so we have to think about medical cannabis as medicine, not as drug use and not as a political issue primarily, but as medicine. And when you think about it as medicine, what's happening in California and what's happening around the country and the other medical cannabis states suddenly makes sense. And that, I think, was one of the early experiences I had with medical cannabis, and this very sincere and legitimate patient that really helped shape my vision of this in the years to come.